Hi, I'm Darrel Tank, and I'm with the 5-pencil method. And every once in a while, we'll get a question, and Kara has sent in one of those. It's really great to be able to answer a few things. And she's brand new to the 5-pencil method. She's done a few little simple videos at the start, and now she has a question about edge to value, and she sent in some boxes, wondering how in the world would she go and demonstrate the edge to value. There are some important things to know, so let me go ahead and show you. Kara would like to be able to have me show her what I would do with these boxes to have an edge to value that's effective. Edge to value is very important. And so first of all, what we want to make sure we don't do is have these that dark. We want to be able, and I just quickly put some boxes on the paper here. They don't necessarily show exactly the same thing, but I would always start, if I can, with the lightest pencil. So I'm going to tap off these, and the reason I would tap off these lines is that I don't want these lines to dictate how dark I'm going to have to go to make them go away. I want to absorb them into the value. So that's why I'm saying it's an edge to value. I want them to just show, however light it can be, an edge, so that box starts having dimension and separates it from the other elements. Whether that's the background, the tabletop, or whatever it is that they're sitting on, or from each other. So you'll see I'm tapping this back so that I can get a realistic amount of value, and I won't have to worry so much about getting something too dark for my edge to value to have it look appropriate. I want some of these to be extremely light. So what I would do is I would come in and I would say, okay, let's decide also whether you want something underneath. I'm not going to do that right now. So let's go ahead and put some edge to value here. I want my line to go away. So I want to match up that value. That's why I lightened it up so I don't have to go too dark. Okay. If I want it darker and I feel that's the way it's going to have to go in the long run, well, then I want to be able to gradually, layer another, amount of strokes on here so that it'll get darker. Over here, we want to be able to have this separate from this box in the front. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to absorb that line up there in the top. We'll just assume this is a shadowed side of the box. If it isn't, then it might be a lighter value or whatever. Okay, so I'm forming this shadow, this edge to value, to separate the boxes. Remember, I don't want too dark of a line initially to keep me from being able to do that, because I want to absorb this outer line into my value. Okay, so now if there was something underneath, let's just say there's a value underneath, then I would come over here and I would come away from it, making this darker than that. That starts showing maybe a drop shadow. And yet we probably have, as this goes down behind these boxes in a way, we want to be able to have this value back here to keep it separate from the other ones. And watch, I'm going to try and make sure that it's the same value as the line. Or else lighten up the line. It's not always, I don't want that line to tell me how dark to make it. I want the line to be there to show me where I need to put my value. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now we have that starting to be separated. And let's just say it gets lighter and lighter and lighter over here. Maybe there's a value all the way across. So you're going to have to be very careful and put strokes in between other ones to make sure it doesn't look like a bunch of lines. And if this needed to be lightened up a little bit, well, then it's certainly better to have this only dark enough to see. That's it. Then you're in complete control. You don't have to worry about how dark the lines are and whether it looks like a coloring book, drawing or anything. You just go ahead and you lighten it up so that it doesn't have that. And that all takes me a little bit more time than just showing you a quick demonstration. But anyway, I don't want to have that line. I want it absorbed into this value. And I want to try and keep from going over the edge. And maybe I could just get lighter, 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 because maybe there's a little bit more light on this corner here. And so let's go ahead and this would be a different value. I'm not going to try and get them all the appropriate value, but just to show you, it's a clean edge to value. However, I don't know how dark how much lighting you have. Maybe I want to get darker and darker and darker, and so that down here would be a little bit darker. I'm going to use my 4H because I can always go a second time over it or a third time over it, and it'll keep increasing in value. And I want to try to keep this in between the lines so that I don't have to worry about it becoming, like just linear lines, like it has lines on the box itself. Now, I'm not going to come all the way up here. I'm just showing you. So again, if you have this little corner up here, let's just go ahead and show this will have to be an edge to value absorbing that line. But you got to be careful too and have it become something that isn't going to make it like it's just bending down. So you have to decide how much value there's going to be in each one of these. But the edge to value is this. One of the most important things you can do. It's used for a face. It's used for, I don't care what it is. It could be a leaf. It could be all kinds of things. You want to be able to show an edge so that you can separate it. You don't want this to just become all, undefined. Let's say like, that doesn't do me any good, and then try and put some value in here. I want to have a nice edge to value. So that line would have to be lightened up enough, to demonstrate that. So if I wanted to, this isn't what you asked, but if I wanted to, I could use this darker line and put this. I got to be careful. I don't want to show a space underneath there, but I got to be able to show that there's a little shadow coming this way. So anyway, this is how you do it. If this is a light value, you put a light value in here. And you would want to make sure that it's a value that you're going to be able to have all the way across, unless you feel that there is light shining on this somewhere, and have it fade into that light. And Kara, this is a very, I'm so glad you're asking this question, because it is so critical for us to be able to demonstrate a dimension. It's so critical for me to be able to have a clean edge to value that matches the value on that edge, the one that I originally, did, because I started the drawing with those lines. Okay, but that's not saying we wouldn't continue, increasing value depending on where and how we want these boxes to relate to each other. You see this one's darker on this side, so maybe our light source is like this. Or maybe it's like this, almost from behind. That's why the shadow's cast here, and that shadow's cast there. So you want to be able to have the line fade away and become the same as the value you're putting in there. That line needs to go ahead and become the edge to your value, not an outline. So we don't want to do this where we have this really dark and it becomes, again, like a coloring book. That isn't going to do any good. That isn't going to help us. And so that's what we want to make sure we didn't do. And that's what happened on yours here. You sent this in, and there's no way for me to lighten it up. So I just quickly drew, some squares on here. And if you find that you've gone over the edge, well, then go ahead and try and recreate that edge, because it's so critical. You want to be able to do that. So let's get that little corner in there. Whatever. You can see how you'll have to modify it to shape it up. And I don't want to have that become too dark on the front. And it probably is going to be darker over here, just the way I started it, because now we have a sensible way of dealing with our light source. So where is your light source coming from? Is it coming from this? Is it coming from this? I don't think so, because these are darker. So anyway, I hope that helps you. It's really important to absorb the line. And so if I have this the same value as that, then this line is going to be absorbed in there, and that's not going to work. I want to be able to have this be a separate value from this. This is pretty dark for being so high up. Probably would have been better to do it down here. But that depends on what source or direction your light is coming from. So stay away from the edged, the dark line representing the edge to your box. Lighten it up. Remember when I did this, or else do it much lighter. And because you're working all by yourself in your home or your studio, wherever you draw, then you can use this very lightly to make your edges so you can see where they are. So I hope that helps you. And we can go ahead and have you demonstrate or show us what you've done. That's always good to do too. So if you decide to do that, I am glad to be able to at least try. And if you need to ask the question again, go ahead and do that. Again, this is Darrel Tank with 5 Pencil Method. Bye-bye.